Go get your popcorn, go get your chocolate. It's story time, kids. People who know me know that I don't dream very often, and if I do, I don't remember my dreams. And when I dream vividly and uniquely. And this morning, I had a very unique kind of dream. Last night I went to bed a little early, and I woke up about 3:30 this morning, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to start the day. And when I realized what time it was, I tried to roll over and go back to sleep. It took a while, but it did happen. And then I woke up a short time later with the most vivid dream I have had in a very long time. I dreamed that there was a man dressed up as Superman, and he was flying through the hallways of a tall building that he owned. He was a businessman, but he just kept zipping through the hallways, going into elevators, riding up the elevator, and then zipping through hallways again. But no matter how fast he went, I was able to keep up with him. And this caught his eye. Instead of being Superman, he turned into the business person that he was in everyday life. Except he was a cold, calculated, ruthless businessman, almost like a mafia boss. And he took a special interest in me. And it was almost like he wanted to interview me to see what made me tick. So he would spend some time with me every day in a different type of room, just asking me questions. I don't really remember what the questions were, but I remember that there were 2 specific days that had 2 different rooms. And on the second day, he led me into a room where there was a TV. And the TV had him being interviewed, where he was giving answers, where he was calling himself a liar and a murderer, and how cold he was, and how he took pride in that. And he asked me to sit down in front of that TV with my back to that TV. And when I did, I was facing him at his desk. And I remember that he went and he got me a soda to drink. And I specifically remember the brand that it was, and it was the type that I like to drink. And I remember thinking, how did this man know this? And why is he serving me himself? Why isn't he calling like a servant to come in and bring me something to drink? Or better yet, why isn't he even asking me if I'm thirsty? But every time he would ask me a question, he would just smile. And so I asked him, why do you smile? Why do I amuse you so much? And he would just shake his head. But I never took it as him making fun of me. I just took it as him taking an interest in me. But then the scene changes, and it changes to African desert. And he changes from a ruthless, cold businessman to a large cat, like a cheetah. And he is slowly drowning a hippopotamus in a pond of water, while I watch from the sidelines in the sand. And I specifically remember thinking that I'm not upset by the scene. I'm not shocked. I'm not appalled. I'm just calmly watching from the sidelines as this cheetah is drowning a hippopotamus. And I'm watching this hippopotamus go underwater and not resurface. And as this hippopotamus is dying, the cheetah transforms into a little boy, sitting in this pond of water. And the little boy thinks to himself, but I can hear his thoughts, I have found my better half. As soon as this little boy thinks this, a snake slithers down the sand in between me and this little boy and goes all the way down the hill. And then he catches my eye. And I remember thinking, please don't see me. But it does. And it comes straight at me. And the only thought that I had was, I don't want you to strike me. But it got to the bottom of my foot. And I was wearing a coat or a sweater of some sort, something that I could take off. And I covered it up. And just as I was about to pick it up like a sack, I woke up. So one of the first things that I asked when I woke up was, Lord, what does this mean? Because like I said, I don't dream. And when I do, it generally means something. And I did some research. And some of the things that I researched was, can cheetahs drown a hippopotamus? No, they can't, was the answer that I got from Google. In fact, cheetahs often avoid hippopotamuses, a hippo. A cheetah will avoid a hippo whenever it is around water, because a hippopotamus will often be able to drown a cheetah. And so in my dream, the unnatural was happening. Hi, you want to come see me? Hi, you want to see the people? I'm recording. You normally don't want to be on camera. Are you okay? Yeah? Are you getting bugged? Too many bug bites? Yeah? Okay, I'm going to take her inside. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So, the snake. The snake that I saw when I looked it up online was a albino Burmese python, which is not found in Africa. It's actually found in Southeast Asia. And pythons, even though their bites are painful, are not known for really biting. They're a constrictor, so they're known for suffocation, for wrapping themselves around you and squeezing you. So those are a couple of animal facts, if you didn't know them. And so a lot of times snakes in dreams especially can refer to like evil. They can refer to danger or temptation. But after meditating and praying and thinking about this dream, what I really believe that this dream was referring to was seeing people for who they are, both for the good and the bad. That in this dream, I showed up authentically me. That here was this person that on the outside looked like Superman to everyone else. But behind closed doors was this ruthless businessman, this cold, calculating person. At least that's who he saw himself to be. And yet, in the dream, I did not judge him for that. I saw him for who he was, and I saw the situation for what it was. And because of that, I believe that he became vulnerable in a way. By the same token, he appreciated me and my authenticity because I didn't try to kowtow to him. I didn't try to make him happy in any kind of way. I showed up as me. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what his motives were. All I knew is I was interviewing. But I think in some kind of way, he was trying to get me to see him in a certain light until his authentic self showed up. But I think the snake was a warning. The snake was not temptation, evil. I think the snake was a warning. That just because you see people in their authenticity doesn't mean that they need to be around you. Doesn't mean that you need to be in their life or that they need to be in yours. That this snake came straight at me. It didn't bite. It wasn't trying to fight. It wasn't trying to suffocate. It wasn't trying to strike. There was no coiling up. There was no tension on its part. It was simply trying to get my attention. It allowed me to cover it up. It didn't even struggle when I did that. My only thought was to take the snake and put it somewhere where it wouldn't get hurt, where it wouldn't hurt me and it wouldn't get hurt itself. So I didn't try to kill it. I wasn't trying to hurt it. And it seemed to understand that. We seemed to have a mutual understanding that I didn't want to see it, but it wanted to be seen by me specifically. Not the little boy, not the cheetah, but by me. I got led to a book in the Bible that admittedly I'm not very familiar with. And I'm going to mess up some of these names, so please have some patience with me on that. But it's the book in the Old Testament, and it's either pronounced Hosea or Hosea, but it's Hosea, depending on where you're from, and it may be pronounced a different way. You may pronounce the H, Hosea, or Hosea. But I had to kind of read about what this book was about. And so I'm going to say Hosea. And Hosea was a prophet who was asked by God to marry a prostitute. And this prostitute, even after marrying a prophet, was unfaithful to her husband. She left him. She ran around on him. She initially thought she was living very well because she basically did what she wanted to do. But then life got rough. She hit rock bottom and she was auctioned off as a slave. But God directed Hosea to go and buy back his wife as a wife, not a slave. And basically, the way that I understand this is that this is basically an illustration of what God does for us. That when we run from God, when we rebel, God continues to seek us. Just as Hosea continued to seek his wife, either Gomer or Gomer. In the book of Hosea, chapter 2, verse 14, it says, "Therefore, I am now going to allure her. I will lead her into the desert and speak tenderly to her." My understanding is that this is a chapter talking about how God punished Israel and then restored Israel. And Israel was disobedient to God as well in the Old Testament. The Israelites could have had the land of milk and honey earlier than what they did, but they were not obedient to God. And it says in verse 14, chapter 2, verse 14, "Therefore, I am now going to allure her. I will lead her into the desert and speak tenderly to her." And this kind of hit me some kind of way when I heard this, because it's often in the desert where, in the Bible, where we are taught, where we could be tempted, right? Jesus was in the wilderness for 40 days, and he was tempted during those 40 days. Israel wandered for 40 years before they were allowed to have their land. And so in this dream, this man turns into a cheetah in the desert. He turns into this animal that's fast, that's known for speed. But yet, this cheetah is doing this unnatural thing, this thing that's not found in the wildlife, of drowning a hippopotamus. It's like it's a test in the desert. This man is speaking. This man is not speaking to me. This man is thinking, I have found my better half. I am reading his thoughts. But at no point in this dream does he communicate with me. I am left on my own to try to figure out what it is he's doing. There is no communication. It's not what it appears. That is the warning, I believe. It's not what it appears. When you listen to that story, you can say, but he served you. He served you a drink, a soda that you didn't even have to ask for, and he knew what your favorite was, and you didn't have to tell him. He just knew, and he served it to you himself. This man who could have a servant do it, he did it himself. True. But he's also showing me who he is without saying a word. He's putting on a front, a Superman front to everyone. He's showing me behind the scenes what really happens, that he conducts business without thinking about others. So because he serves me a soda, I'm supposed to think that he cares about me, that I'm different. Because he allows me to see him slowly kill an animal that he shouldn't be able to kill, I'm supposed to be impressed. Because he smiles and I ask him, what is he thinking? And he doesn't communicate that to me. He just leaves me wondering, what does that say? And I can read his thoughts, but he never speaks. He never tells me who he is. And while he seems to appreciate who I am, he never seems to truly acknowledge that he understands who I am. How could he know? We've never had that conversation. Things are not as they always appear. So I would caution you, we always want to believe that things are great, that things are wonderful. We want to go in with the blinders. But if someone's not willing to give, if someone's not willing to communicate, is it really that great? I'm interested in knowing what this dream says to you, because I could break down we could go so deep into the symbolism of each and everything. Psychologically, biblically, there's so much more that I could dive into with this. I would be interested in knowing if this speaks to you, if this means something to you, if this speaks to your current situation. But for me, I think in my current situation, last night I prayed, God, I turn over everything to you. Show me what I need to see. And poof, I got this dream. And it was in a way that I could handle it. I will lead her into the desert and speak tenderly to her. Until next time, may the Lord bless and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. I love y'all. Have a great night and sweet dreams.